Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome back to Jamie Photography. I'm sorry I've been away a little while here. There's been a number of weeks since I last posted. I do apologise. We lost somebody very dear to us in the family, and to be honest, I've been trying to get my mojo back and get back into action, and I'm pretty well back now. So thank you for your patience, waiting for me to return. I will continue as we were doing in 2024. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the new features that come with the Lightroom 14.2 update, and particularly the adaptive color and the adaptive black and white function. There are some additional functions in Lightroom, but I don't really use them. So actually, I'm just going to show you some of the things that I found that work very, very well. And I've been playing with it a little bit and trying to find the best way we can approach it. This image here is the Royal Shakespeare Theatre in Stratford-upon-Avon in England, and this is the River Avon that runs past it. Now, it's quite a contemporary modern building, but it's got some wonderful lighting. It looks lovely at night, and this was taken around about 3 a.m. in the morning. The stars are dragged just a little bit, but there was mist on the river. I couldn't resist taking this shot. But I'm going to take you through this, how to process this image using the adaptive color, and also going to take you to another image we shot in Stratford with the adaptive black and white. If you haven't already subscribed, it would be great for you to join me here on YouTube. And if you like the video as we go through, please click like. It always helps the YouTube algorithm. And I really do enjoy seeing your comments, reading your questions, any tips that you give. Every day is a school day, of course, and I've learned some wonderful things from you guys. Let me know what you can do with the different options. So please feel free to drop any comments or anything down below. And if you want to learn anything more about me, also got a link down below for my website. You can learn a bit about my gear I use, who I am, and also see my new sky pack, which I finally got together, which is sunsets. Some really great stuff. I really enjoyed doing those, and they're available in a JPEG download, or if you want for a little bit extra money, you can download them in the full 16-bit DNG as well, so you can adapt the images to suit yourself. So please have a look. And workshops bookings for this year are going well. We've got one place left on the London workshop, so if you're feeling interested, again, have a look at the website and drop me a note. Okay, let's get started. So Lightroom 14.2 update. Now, there are a number of features that come with the update, but the one that I think that's really important is the new adaptive features that you find in the profile settings. And if you have an image, I've got here a picture of the Royal Shakespeare Theatre in Stratford-upon-Avon in England, taken at night. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at what we can do with this particular image. I'm just going to reset it actually back where he started. You can download this image. It is available in the links down below, and you're welcome to follow along with me. You'll find in the profile settings up here, look, you can see you get Adobe Color. That's the standard render that you get. And if you open this up, you get the different Adobe landscape, portrait, standard, vivid, and you can use those to change it. I never actually really use them because I always shoot in RAW. I tend to just go with the raw image and then make my own changes. However, the new adaptive color and the new adaptive black and white features are actually quite impressive, and I'm going to take you through, show you how they work. Also going to dispel a little bit of a misinformation that's been passed around, so you can understand exactly how the function works. So if you just go straight in, before you do anything else, into the profiles and click adaptive color, it will make a change to your image. A lot of people have said, well, it's great because now it's made brightness changes, shadows changes, highlight changes, but it hasn't altered any of the sliders. So now we have the power to go and add even more to the process. Well, that's not strictly true, because what happens is if I show you, if I go all the way to minimum highlights and go to maximum shadows, and I haven't changed anything in adaptive color here, I've just left it at 100%, you can see we get a particular image. Yeah. But if I just undo that and go back, if we make a copy of this, so all I'm going to do is create a virtual copy. Okay, so it says copy one. So on copy one, I'm going to make the changes first. So I'm going to have maximum highlights and shadows, and then what I'm going to do is go in and apply adaptive color. Okay, so it's applied the adaptive color over the settings I already made. Now if I go back to the other copy and I select adaptive color, there we go, And then, because these sliders haven't moved, people believe that they have the power to add even more to the image. Well, if we then just go minimum highlights, maximum shadows, there we go. So did it both ways round, right? So now if we look, there's copy 1, there's copy 2. They're exactly the same. There really is ever so such a minor difference in brightness, but they're very, very similar. So it doesn't really matter how you choose to play it. What I've been finding, I'll just reset those. What I've been finding is that actually it's better to just do what you would normally do in your starting cycle for your processing. And in this case, because I've shot for the highlights here, they're a bit bright, so I would bring down the highlights so they looked much more reasonable. I'd probably open up the shadows a little bit as well, just to show a bit more of the sky. And I might even just brighten the image ever so slightly as a sort of starting point for how I'd process this image. But then I can jump straight into profile and I can hit adaptive color and it will apply that. Now I find that that's now a little bit too much open shadows. So I can bring those shadows down a little bit to get it just where I want. And the same with the highlights. I can just adjust those so I'm comfortable with them. So I end up with a really good starting position to process this image. Now, what does adaptive color do? I think it's quite interesting. Generally speaking, what it does is it applies a number of the point colors. So you go down to color mixer and you click on point color, and then you take a dropper and you can apply it to any part of say the sky, for example. We'll pick a blue here, and then you can start to make ever so slight changes with the color of the sky. You can take other colors, this brown over here, and you can maybe add a little bit more hue to the image, and it will pick those colors and then adjust the whole image around the changes that you make. Well, the adaptive color function does that all for you. Actually saves you a great deal of time. And if I actually go over here, you can see we've got the adaptive color, and then we've also got the changes that we've made as well as the changes in the history function. So you can keep track of what you've actually been doing. So I really do like the function and the ability that it has. And if I just go back to the adaptive color there, we've got that applied. It does tend to be rather vibrant, rather vivid, but I quite like that style of photography. So, but you've also got the opportunity here to move the slider, so you can bring that up, and it will really open up the shadows more and give you a little bit more in the highlight control and balance the color at the same time, or you can bring it down and go back closer to perhaps a little bit more where you started. And actually having it used maybe a little bit sort of subtle can work very, very well. So let me just reset. We're just going to go back to the beginning. So what I would do to actually process this image is I would firstly, as I always do, is I'd go down to the denoise function. All right, so we are running at 1600 ISO. I did a 20-second exposure f8, so it was the middle of the night, and you can see the stars in the sky. They are a little bit drawn because it was 20 seconds, but I'm okay with that. But I will denoise, so I'm going to click on denoise, and I'm going to just apply 50% because there's not a huge amount of noise. 1600 ISO on a Canon R5 is not bad at all. I'm just going to click enhance, and it will create a denoise separate image. So it's just doing that as we can speak at the moment up there. And what it will do is it'll add it to our film strip down the bottom here. So there we go. And you can always tell the difference because you've got these additional little markers here. The little stars tell us that it's been denoised. So now we're in the denoised edition. You can see that the noise in the sky is very much gone. It's really a very clean image. If you're interested in understanding how denoise works and the functions with it, look back into my videos and you'll find I did a shot in Amsterdam and actually went through all of the differences between how the denoise function works. And one of the key points with denoise is that it doesn't matter when you apply it. You can apply it at the beginning or the end of your process because it's just working with the data. Some people argue that if you make changes and add filters and the like, the denoise would not be effectively applied because you did it at the beginning. But it's actually not true. It runs an algorithm within the software that maintains those changes all the way through. So you can do it at the beginning, You can do it at the end. I like to do it at the beginning because then I'm working with a low noise, high detail image, and that tends to work very well for me. So here we go then. So we've got the noise enhanced version. We're going to go straight up to the profile there, hit the adaptive color. We're going to bring down our highlights a little bit so they look really, really nice. None of the lights are really overexposed. Some of them are quite bright, as you can see up here. If you closed it down too much to try to get to where you wanted to be with those lights, you can see they're still too bright, and actually it starts to look a little bit unnatural. So just going to bring that up a little bit there. And I'm going to open up the shadows just a little bit as well. I think the sky is absolutely beautiful up there. I'm just going to pop into crop, and I'm going to make sure my padlock's unlocked there, but I'm just going to go down and select more of a panoramic view for this shot. So I'm going to go with 16:9. And what I want to do is align with my rule of thirds here. So I'm just going to pull that image down and put the sort of river line along that bottom one there. So you still got a lot of that sky in. I'm just going to hit return, and that gets us the image where we want to be. So where do we go from here? Well, I think firstly I'm going to probably just do something a little bit more with the sky. So I'm just going to go into our mask functions here, go to a linear gradient, and I'm just going to pull a linear gradient down slightly at an angle. It's best never to have them perfectly straight because they don't look natural. So I'm just going to pull it down. A lot of people I've noticed, I've watched others, they tend to say, well, I'm just doing the sky, so I'll just do this bit here. But actually, if you draw it down in, you can actually get quite a nice sort of effect on the top of the trees, top of the building as well. You can also remove it if you don't want to do that, but you do want it to go all the way down. Then, of course, you can always just go inside the mask here, and you can subtract the sky, right, as a selection, and it picks up just the buildings. However, if you click when you're in the sky function, invert, it will just do the sky, you see. Now you have to be a little bit careful because you do get a little bit of a halo around the buildings, and a way to reduce that halo is to subtract another sky and invert it, and that can help decrease a little bit more. But in this case, I'm just going to run with one sky there, and actually I like it to come over the top of the building. In this case, I'm sort of prefer that to come in here, so we get a little bit darkening effect on top of there. So we'll just take the exposure slider now and just bring it down a little bit, so we're a little bit darker up in this top corner here. I think that works very, very well. I'm going to right click on the center of the linear mask here, the linear gradient mask, and I'm going to duplicate the mask. So I've now got two masks, but the top one, I'm going to click on it, I'm just going to move it back up so it just really darkens off that top corner up there. That works really, really well. Now, just looking at the scene overall, I love the reflections of the lights and the colours. You know, modern LED lighting, it actually is quite a wonderful looking thing. But what I do notice is a couple of spots of lights reflected, which actually, they don't look brilliant. They sort of draw your eye away from the main image, and you start looking at these lumps here. So we're gonna go into the remove tool here, and I'm going to use heal. Okay, put the feather up to 100%, and because where you've got like a consistent surface like this on the water, heal works very, very well. So I'm just going to go in there and just paint over that. Same here. If you see a little bit of a mark left, just go over it again ever so slightly, and you can remove those from the scene. There we go. Just last little bit there. That's good. That one, I'd like to remove that one. That one, I'm going to do Control Z, Control Z there, or on a Mac it's Command Z, just to try not to get that edge there. Maybe make the brush a bit smaller using the square brackets just to the left of the return key. There we go. That looks better. Just got rid of those sort of bright lights there. I think also I might just crop across a little bit. This one's extremely bright. It's overexposed, this reflection here from this light, and I don't really like this little sort of bollard here with the life buoy on it. So I'm just going to go back into crop there. I'm just going to bring that across to here, and I'm going to hit return again. So actually that works quite well. I quite like this sort of colour down the bottom left corner. And this edge here, may look a little bit distracting, but what it does is it gives you some depth to the image. You've got this sort of key side here running away. I will probably just remove a couple of those leaves there that are just like lit up. So this time I'm going to go into the remove tool. I'm not going to use generative AI. I'm just going to take the brush down, just click on these leaves and just remove them from the foreground because they're quite bright. They just distract a little bit on that sort of area there. There's a stick there as well. We'll just get rid of that. There we go. Edge of the label there just showing. So we'll just get rid of that as well. That's fine. So I think we're starting to look pretty good now. So I'm just going to go back to my main screen here. So where do we go? Just to finish this image off. Well, I think what we can do here is I'm going to brighten the whole scene ever so slightly. I think that looks very good. I'm going to probably just take the mist that you can see on the water and just increase it just a little tiny bit. I don't think we need to do much more than that. So to do that, I'm going to go back into the masks here. I'm going to create a new mask. I'm going to select the brush. Okay. In the brush, I'm going to make sure auto mask is turned off because we want it to apply evenly to everything, not just on selected brightnesses. And then I'm going to put the flow at say 40% there. So not a huge amount of flow, but feather it 100%. So we want lots of blending on the edge of the brush. I'm then going to go down until I get to dehaze. Okay, and I'm going to put quite a big minus 50 on dehaze. So quite a big chunk of dehaze. But it's called dehaze, and yet if you do the negative of dehaze, you actually add haze, which is quite interesting. So now we've got quite a large brush here. I'm just going to wash through. Just going to come through here and then just add that a little bit more into the scene. Perhaps a little bit more along the quay side here and where the boats are. So it's only subtle. It's just a little bit, just to bring that up just a little bit more. So I'm thinking we're pretty well here on this image. I'm quite happy with this. Probably the last thing I'll do, just going to come out of masks, going to go down to the bottom, going to go into effects. I'm going to do a post-crop vignette, so we're going to do quite a big one, about minus 25, something like that. And if you can't quite get the number when you're moving backwards and forwards, you can always just click on the box there and just write minus 25, enter, and it'll do it for you. And then what we're going to do, always important, I think, when you put a post-crop vignette in, is go to the feather slider and just feather it out all the way, 100%. And you get a lovely feather on there. So, final touch. Probably just check my blacks and my whites. The whites are going to be awkward because we've got some very bright areas there. So we're just going to hold down the Alt or Option key on a window and move the slider until we can just start to see some whites. So if I go to that end, you can see we'll just starting to see some blue markers there, which just say that's where it's really bright. So about plus 26. And then on the blacks, we're just going to bring that down until we start to see some blacks. So a little bit in the foreground there, down the bottom left corner. That's fine. So we've got really good contrast. And then I'm just going to check the final contrast with the contrast slider. So it might have just a little bit too much contrast. So I'm just going to back it off just a little bit. And there I would say I'm quite happy with that shot. Not too much work on it, but using the new adaptive color function actually works very, very well. So so let's have a look. Let's have a look at how we can do a black and white. So I've got another image here taken in Stratford-upon-Avon. I've shot for the highlights, so these lights are very bright. So I've tried to expose for that. So we've got 0.6 of a second, f8, 1600 ISO again. So let's do the same thing, but this time we're going to go into adaptive black and white. All right, so I'm going to click on that. Boom, straight away you can see it's opened up all of the shadows. It's opened up everything there. And we can bring down the highlights to where we want, and we can open up shadows as we want. But before I do any of that, let me just reset that. I almost forgot. We will do our denoise, okay? Because we're at 1600 ISO. So 50 on the denoise is more than enough for 1600 ISO. You know, sometimes people say to me, well, when do you use 30 or 40 or 60 or 80 on denoise? And I think a lot of it comes down to how much noise you've actually got in the image. If you're shooting at 3200 ISO or 6400 ISO, depending on the camera, some of the Sony cameras are extremely competent even when you get further up there. The R5 tends to start to lose its way after 3200, but denoise helps us bring that back. So generally I go with 50% at 1600 ISO. If I go down to 800 ISO, then I probably go at 40%. If I come down to say 640 or 500 ISO, probably go at 30%. And likewise, if I go to 3200 ISO, then that's 60%, 6400 or so, 70%. And that tends to be a rule of thumb that works quite well with me. Each camera is slightly different. Each sensor has what's called an invariance that does change. And so different ISOs give different levels of noise. So I won't go into that too much now, but it's worth looking up what your camera sensor's invariance is, and it will tell you where there are different gain settings. And generally there are two levels of invariance. So for example, with the Canon, the invariance is at 1600 ISO. So if I actually drop down to say 1250 ISO, I'd actually get a little bit more noise than if I'm at 1600 ISO. So with the Canon, it's 100 ISO for the low invariance and 1600 for the high factor for the R5. Each camera is different, so it's just worth looking that up and seeing where your invariance sits. But sorry, I digress. Back to this image. So we've done the noise cancellation. We're going to jump into the profiles. We're going to go to adaptive black and white, so it does that change for us, and that's really good, straight out the bag. Really happy with that. I would have had to have made a number of changes in my sliders to get to that level. But what I'm going to do is I'm bring the highlights down just a little bit so those lights are a little bit more under control. And I'm probably just going to open up the shadows just a little bit here. I want to crop this image, so I'm just going to go into crop again. Select, I'm going to go with a 16:9 again. We've got a lot of tree here, right? And we've got this sort of pathway, this road down here, which looks okay, but perhaps we just need to bring that across. So we've got this sort of edge here. That light's okay. And maybe we just need to bring this up a little bit on this side, just to make the tree a little bit smaller. I'm watching the reflections down the bottom here, so we keep them in the shot. And the tower here, I want to make sure that that's also in the shot. So I'm just going to hit return. So, oh, by the way, if you do ever go to Stratford upon Avon, the Cox Yard here, restaurant, it's a fabulous place to go in the daytime. This was about 3 o'clock in the morning, but you go there and it's busy, obviously. But you can sit on the side of the River Avon here, enjoy a nice lunch and a good pint of beer. And it's a wonderful place to visit. So I certainly recommend Stratford upon Avon. Lovely place to go. The birth, of course, of Shakespeare, birth town of Shakespeare. So that's the image we're at. Now, most people say, well, I'm pretty happy with that, right? And you could use something like Silver Effects Pro from the DxO collection. That will give you some really good effects, and you can jump straight into those effects. And I've got some videos on how to use Silver Effects Pro. But with this new creative, this adaptive black and white function, it's taken us 2/3 of the way there without really doing very much, just clicking the button. But what I will do with this, and black and white really comes down to how you use your contrast and your clarity. That's really what it comes down to, for me anyway. If I increase the contrast on this scene here, and bring the blacks down a little bit more, so we're really bringing those, crunching those dark areas and bringing them together. And then I'm just going to go to the temp slider. Now, you won't be able to adjust the color because we're in black and white, but by using the temp slider, you will either progress the warm colors in the image to be brighter or the darker images to be darker. So if I actually just slide this slightly to the right, we can actually just bring a lot more information around this area here only. So you see how we've sort of taken those brightnesses. I'm actually just going to bring the highlights down just a little bit more, just for those lights themselves. That's good. Then what we're going to do is we're going to look at the clarity. Okay, I'm just going to brighten this image just a little bit more with the exposure there. Lovely. So clarity, a lot of people think, right, throw a load of clarity in, so we'll do that. And you get this really sort of exaggerated, sometimes it can work really, really well. Look at the wood paneling on here, it really brings it alive. You could also add a little bit of texture to that, and always be careful with texturing. It's quite a powerful slider. I'm going to go with about +3. So you can end up with this sort of, really crunchy sort of look. But actually in this type of environment, there's mist in the air. There's a sort of morning sense about the image, which I love. Is actually little trip secret really is to take the clarity slider and take it well down, -75. Look at this. So I'm just going to bring the highlights up just a little bit because I don't want to crunch those whites completely out of existence. There we go. And just going to add a little bit more of the texture in there to compensate for the lack of clarity there. Now, do I go less, even less? Let's see, go down to -100. No, that's a bit much. So let's come up. So I'm thinking we're probably around about -60. And you get this sort of softness while at the same time you get the crunchiness of the contrast. I'm going to do what I did on the other image there. I'm going to go into my masks. I'm going to select a brush, flow at 40, feather at 100, no auto mask switched on. Going to go down to dehaze. Going to put -50 in the dehaze. Nice big brush here. Just going to wash this through here a little bit and just put a little bit more mist in there. I can actually take the brush a bit smaller and just run it along that edge. There we go. Just building that mist up. I quite like that. That works very, very well. So you got that sort of misty look. Now, I think we're looking pretty good there already. And we're starting to see an image that I think really, really looks like a fantastic black and white. I probably just want to sharpen the image ever so slightly because we've dropped so much clarity away. We have lost a little bit of the sharpness. So I'm just going to go down here. So I'm not in any of the masks. Just going to go down to sharpening here. And I'm just going to add in about 60 on the sharpening. There we go, about 60 on the sharpening. As I say, you can always click on the box and just type 60 in there. So we've just got that sharpness being applied. And there's no luminance applied here because we already did the denoise. There still is a little bit of noise. You can see these rings. You see these white rings. These white rings come from the diffraction on the lens of the camera from this very bright light over here. It's diffracting, creating this white circle. It can be corrected. It takes a little bit of time to do. But what I can do is just apply a little bit of luminance on top of this. Right, so we're going to come up to about sort of, let's say about probably around about 30, just to soften that off. But because we've got sharpening and we've got a luminance taking place at the same time, I do need to take the masking tool here, hold down the Alt or Option key, and then slide it until we get the areas that are black, which is where the additional noise correction's going. Just move it to the point where we can still see the stars, but we've got all the other detail in there. And then when I let go, we've got the noise correction on the dark areas, and we've still got the sharpening on the main subject areas. I think that looks quite well. And also in your manual noise reduction, you have color and contrast sliders. Now, color doesn't matter too much here because we're in black and white, but certainly the contrast slider, we can apply that, and you'll notice it's quite subtle. So if I go to go maximum, look at this tree in the background here, and I go to maximum, and you can see that the contrast is brought back into the shot. So the contrast slider, further over to the right it goes, the less noise correction within the contrast. So I'm going to go probably around about 65 on there. I'm just going to zoom back out. So I'm actually quite happy with this shot. I probably just want to bring this middle area a little bit brighter. So what I'm going to do is go into the masks here. I'm going to take a radial gradient, nice big one, like whoa, nice big one like this. Just pop it in the center, like so. And then I'm just going to take the exposure slider and just bring it to the right ever so slightly, just a tiny bit. And then what I'm going to do is open up the shadows a little bit more and bring the highlights down. Not too much, just bring them down. So what you can now see is we've got this sort of opening of the shot. And I can show you here that before I made that setting and after I made that setting. So that's where we were. That's where we got to. It's subtle, but it really does add a level of, what could we call it, ambience to the shot. So I'm sort of happy with that, really. Is there anything else I need to do? I could spend a little bit more time, maybe just adding a bit more light here or here, maybe trying to make the tower a little bit brighter. Let's do that whilst we're here. Let's do that. Create a new mask. Object selection, one of my favorite tools. Just take the object selection down over the tower like so. Let go, and it will select the tower for us. There it is. And then what we can do is we can add in a little bit more brightness to that tower. Let's just brighten them up a little bit. There we go. Not very much. I'm going to add in a little bit more contrast for it. And then I'm going to put some clarity on that tower, so it sort of stands out as almost as though it's being, lit even brighter than it actually is. To be honest, I think we're done, but I just need to sort out the perspective. That's not quite straight, so just going to go down to where should we go? We go down to transform. Here we go. I'm going to take the guided button. I'm just going to pop a line down the center of that chimney. There we go. And I'm going to put one on this little castle building over here. Just pop that in there. There we go. And it's got those nice and straight. Happy with that. Great. So I think that it's a finished image. Or should we, like I did on the other one, let's pop in some post-crop vignette. Just come down there about minus 20-ish. Yeah, that'll do. And then bring the feather up. And I'm going to say that's a really great black and white. So the new adaptive features, the adaptive color and the adaptive black and white that come with Lightroom 14.2 update. It's only a little update, but actually I think it's a real game changer for us. And I'm certainly going to enjoy having a play with that. So let's just have a look at that other image we did in the color. So there we go. That also, just let that clear a second. There we go. Fantastic. Really, really gives you the ability to make changes. And, we've done some subtle processing today. We've not done the hard, changing everything, adding light, moving things around as I know I really do enjoy doing. But sometimes just a subtle process can really work very, very well. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please click like. And I always welcome your comments and any points or tips you've got, any questions. I look forward to reading those. And if you haven't already subscribed, it would be great for you to join me on this wonderful adventure I'm having on YouTube. It really is great fun. And I really do thank you for your time. And for now, I'm going to say bye-bye.